Thank you, David. Now, I realise that many of you are probably not familiar with this field, so I thought I'd start with a couple of definitions. Now, according to the US Food and Drug Administration, xenotransplantation is any procedure that involves the transplantation, implantation, or infusion into a human recipient of live cells, tissues, or organs from a non-human animal source. And xenografts are cells, tissues, or organs that have been transplanted from one species to another. So what I'm going to talk about today, I'll give you a little short introduction to organ allotransplantation, meaning allo meaning human to human transplantation in this case. The pressing need for more donors, which I'm sure you will be aware of. The concept of using pigs as an alternative source of organs, an potentially unlimited source of organs. Just in broad terms, what the human immune response is to a pig organ xenograft, and the risks involved with xenotransplantation of transmission of viruses from the xenograft to the recipient. I guess the main part of my talk will be about the gene editing of the donor pig to prevent xenograft rejection. And then I'll give you an overview of the progress to the clinic and the recent first-in-human cases. And finally, just an update on xenotransplantation research in Australia. I'm not going to talk about ethical and regulatory aspects because that's not really an area of my expertise. So organ transplantation is really a marvel of medicine that's been around for a long time. It was 70 years ago, the first successful kidney transplant, and that was followed quickly in the 60s by lungs, liver, pancreas, heart, small intestine. And this table gives an example of the success of this procedure. So this shows kidney transplant recipient survival rates in Australia. So if the kidney has come from a deceased donor, 5-year survival is 91%, which is remarkable. 20-year survival is 46%. If the kidney has come from a living donor, the results are even more impressive. 96% survival at 5 years and 67% at 20 years. The thing about transplantation is it is life-saving, but it can also be profoundly life-changing. And I'll use the kidney again as an example here. So if you're unfortunate enough to develop end-stage kidney disease, you'll probably end up on one of these machines, these hemodialysis machines, to do the job of your failed kidneys. And you might be connected to these machines for 3 to 5 hours at a time, 3 to 4 times a week. So you can imagine the impact on your quality of life is enormous. And the other thing to remember is your health will not improve while you're on dialysis. It will only get worse, and get worse quite rapidly. So the alternative is transplantation. Now, and I could show you any number of patient testimonials, but I think this picture really encapsulates what it's all about. And this is a cake. This is a cake that was made by a kidney transplant recipient and given to the transplant nephrologists at St. Vincent's. And it says, "Thank you for 20 years of support and care of our transplant." So this is a person that's been off dialysis for 20 years and leading a relatively normal life. The problem is there's not enough organs. So the waiting list is growing. And I'll give you the kidney figures again as an example. In Australia, in 2022, 3,311 people started dialysis. That's an average of about 9 per day. But there are only 938 people who received a kidney transplant. So that's around 2 to 3 per day. So you can see with that sort of differential, there's going to be a waiting list. And the waiting list at the end of 2022 was 1,297 people. But what the hidden sting in the tail is that doesn't account for the 935 people who were taken off the waiting list, either because they died or they became too sick to receive a transplant. So that's why the pig has been considered for actually a number of decades as a potential alternative donor. And why is that? Well, firstly, is they have surprisingly similar organ physiology and function to humans. there's an unlimited supply. We use hundreds of millions of pigs around the world every year as a food supply. And pigs have already been used for decades for medical purposes. And I'll give you a few sort of pertinent examples there. Pig heart valves, which are an acellular transplant, but pig heart valves have been transplanted for decades. Living pig skin has been used as a temporary cover for burns patients for many, many years. And pig insulin was used to treat diabetes for many decades before recombinant human insulin became available. But of course, there's the downside that pig tissues and pig organs provoke a very powerful immune response in humans, much more powerful than the allo response is. And there's also this risk of infection from the transplant to the recipient. And the one that I'll talk about is the most well-known risk, which is porcine endogenous retrovirus, or PERV. So let's go to the first problem. The first problem is that all humans have antibodies to pig cells, regardless of whether they've been exposed to pigs or pig tissues or whatever. We just have these pre-existing antibodies to pig cells. And I'll just go into a little detail about why that is. So this is a little diagram of a cell surface. And I want you to focus on two structures, glycoproteins and glycolipids. And the distinguishing feature of these molecules is they've got carbohydrate chain, often long and complex carbohydrate chains attached. My pointer working? Yes. So you can see these carbohydrate chains. Now there's a gene called GGTA1, which makes a glycosyl transferase. It's called alpha-1,3 galactosyl transferase. And what that does is it caps many of these cell surface glycoproteins, these chains, with a disaccharide. And it's two galactose molecules, and represented by the red triangles here. So what this enzyme does, it adds this little disaccharide alpha-gal and terminates all those chains. So it's at the top of the chains, these carbohydrate chains on the cell surface. Why is that important? Well, if you look back at the mammalian evolutionary tree, everything below the line has an active GGTA1 gene. That means they express this alpha-gal disaccharide. Because they express the disaccharide, obviously they don't make antibodies against it. However, about 30-odd million years ago, the gene was inactivated in our ancestors. So everything above the line, and that's the humans and higher primates, we no longer have an active GGTA1 gene, which means we no longer make alpha-gal, and we make antibodies to alpha-gal because we've got a lot of bacteria in our gut, which are alpha-gal positive. So, forgetting about exposure to pig cells, it doesn't matter. We're exposed to gal through our gut. So we make antibodies to this molecule. And you can see where the pig sits. He sits down here in the placental mammals, so alpha-gal expressing. So for the higher primates, for us and the higher primates, alpha-gal is a carbohydrate xenoantigen. That's what it's called. So what's the consequence of this? Well, this is a little animation. So if you can imagine that this is a pig kidney, just a normal pig kidney, a wild type domestic pig kidney, it's alpha-gal positive. So it's got the alpha-gal molecule on all its cells, including the cells that line the blood vessels. So imagine you've taken this kidney and you've transplanted it into a human. So the human blood supply now flows through this organ and comes into contact with the alpha-gal, which is on the endothelial, the vessel surfaces. And this will, I'll play the animation, you can see what happens. So there's the alpha-gal. In come the antibodies, bind to the endothelial cell, the vessel surface, damage the vessel surface, which then starts to leak blood. So the kidney will very rapidly hemorrhage. and will stop functioning within hours. That's the power of the immune system on full show. So this is hyperacutely rejected within hours of transplant. You can see it going dark. But anti-alpha-gal antibodies, probably, if not the most important, one of the most important parts of the response, but there are many other parts to the anti-pig immune response. So we have pre-existing antibodies. Alpha-gal I've spoken about, it's the most important. So if you look at the percentage of alpha-gal antibodies as a percentage of the total circulating antibodies in humans is about 1%, which doesn't sound like much, but it's actually a massive amount when you consider how many antibodies we have circulating. So that's a big deal. There's another sugar called nu5GC. All humans will make antibodies to nu5GC, just not to the same level as alpha-gal. And some humans have antibodies against this STA carbohydrate. So these are the three known carbohydrate xenoantigens in order of importance. Now, once those antibodies bind, they activate what's called the complement system. And the complement system is also activated by this process called ischemia reperfusion, which is an unavoidable event in transplantation. It's when you take the kidney out of the donor, you block the blood supply. It's got no blood for a period of time. So it's ischemic, it's got no oxygen or nutrients. Then it's transplanted into the recipient, it's reperfused, and that causes problems in itself. So that also activates complement. And also there's some problems in the control of complement activation. So the pig cell has, on its surface, it has regulators of the complement system. It regulates the activation of complement. But in this context, where it's exposed to human complement, it doesn't work quite so well. So there's this cross-species molecular incompatibility. So complement activation is much amplified compared to what you see in allotransplantation. Then coagulation. So complement activation turns on coagulation. Endothelial cell activation also causes coagulation, and the control, once more, is not perfect. So it's this runaway system. And all of this inflammation that's happening then excites the innate immune cells. So the macrophages come in, the NK cells come in. They recognize the pig cells as foreign and immediately try to kill them. And all of these innate immune processes just feed into the adaptive immune system, which I've super simplified here. So the adaptive immune system, there's generation of cytotoxic T cells, which come in and kill the cells in the graft. The helper T cells providing help to B cells to make new antibodies to attack the graft. So we have enough problems in xenotransplantation to deal with. A big problem number 2, viral transmission. This is a paper that came out, I think it was in Nature Medicine in 1997, almost completely killed the field of xenotransplantation in its tracks, because people were thinking, oh, there's an endogenous retrovirus. This is like HIV. It's going to be another AIDS epidemic. And this retrovirus, called porcine endogenous retrovirus, or PERV, it's present in multiple copies, usually around 20 to 60 copies in the pig genome. There's 3 types, A, B, and C. As this paper showed, it can transmit from pig cells to human cells in vitro, but only under very specific conditions. And if you get recombination between PERV A and PERV C, these recombinants are the most infectious to human cells. So this sounded like the end of the world, but it wasn't. It turns out that not all the copies of PERV in the genome are replication competent. There's absolutely no evidence that there's been any transmission of this virus in vivo. So people who've been exposed to pig cells or tissues for decades have shown no evidence of transmission. PERV-C is in low copy number, and you can easily breed it out of pig herds. So that removes the risk of PERV-AC recombination. And you can treat it with existing antiretroviral drugs. So yes, it's a problem that we need to consider, but it's not insoluble. So CRISPR-Cas9. So I guess during my whole scientific career, there's been two really transformative technologies. So the first, and this is showing my age, was polymerase chain reaction, or PCR, which Kerry Mullis got a Nobel Prize for. The second one, in my opinion, has been CRISPR-Cas9, for which Doudna and Charpentier won the Nobel Prize. And it's made an enormous difference in xenotransplantation because CRISPR-Cas9 allows you to precisely modify the genome of a cell. You can mutate specific things, you can add genes, you can knock genes out. So what this means in xeno is that we can take a pig cell and we can use CRISPR to knock out the cells, knock out the pig genes that we don't want, like the genes for the carbohydrate xenoantigens. Okay, we can knock them out. We can do them all at the same time, 1, 2, 3. We can also add human transgenes so that we can control all those processes I talked about, like coagulation. Where there's cross-species incompatibilities, we can correct that by adding the human genes. So we can add genes, we can take genes away. So we do this in the pig cell, and we select the cell that we want to use. We take the nucleus from that cell and we clone a pig. That process is called somatic cell nuclear transfer. It's like Dolly the sheep was made by cloning. So we can modify the cell any number of ways and then generate a living pig from that. So just to give you an idea, this going back to this, these are our problems. So what gene edits or gene modifications have been made in pigs? And I'll show the knockouts in red and the human transgenes that have been added in black. So triple knockout, knocked out all of those carbohydrate xenoantigen genes. We've added one or more human complement regulators. I won't go into the details of what they actually are. It's not important, but there are 3 human complement regulators. They've been added in combination or one at a time. Been 5 genes that can influence coagulation, inhibit coagulation. To control inflammation, another 4 genes. Adaptive immunity, there's been a number of genes that have been applied there. So this is this range of things that have now become possible because of CRISPR. The other thing that's been done is to knock out the growth hormone receptor in pigs, because if you think about a domestic pig, they grow to 200, 300 kilos plus. So if you've got a heart from a pig, you put it into a 100-kilo human recipient, it's going to keep growing as if it's in the pig. So it's not going to be enough room. So clearly you need a smaller pig. If you knock out the growth hormone receptor, this is what you get. This is a knockout pig next to a wild type pig of the same age. So they're much smaller and their organs are also considerably smaller. That's one way of doing it. The other way is just to use a mini pig breed as your background. So that people have used things like the Yucatan mini pig. Also, if it turns out that porcine endogenous retrovirus is a problem, you can knock it out with PERV. You can knock out all the copies in the genome. So this is what I call the typical 10-gene pig. This is one I'll be talking about a little bit later that's been used in a lot of the clinical work that's been done. So it's a triple knockout for the xenoantigens. It's got a couple of complement regulators, a couple of coagulation regulators, and a couple of genes to control inflammation and innate immune cell activity. And it's also a growth hormone receptor knockout pig. So we've got 2 preclinical models that we can use to test organs from these gene-edited pigs. The first that's been used for decades is the non-human primate model. The second one, which is more recent, is the brain-dead human model, which is given the name the decedent model. And they each have their pros and cons. So with the primate model, primates are very close physiologically and immunologically to humans. Like us, they possess high levels of anti-alpha-gal antibodies, which is the critical antibody, and they can be used for relatively long-term studies. On the other hand, their xeno antibody repertoire is not exactly the same as humans. There's some variation there. They may not respond to certain very specific, human-specific anti-rejection drugs, so that's a bit of an issue too. And they cannot be used to model transmission of PERV because they lack the PERV receptor. On the other hand, the decedent model, this allows continuous monitoring and sampling, which is an advantage. The assays, the human-designed assays, are more advanced to study human immune responses. And the transgenes in these pigs are human, they're not primate. So they're designed to work in humans, and they may not work quite as well in the primate model. But the brain dead state is not normal by any means. And this model is really only suitable for a short-term study. And there's a limited availability of subjects. But they each have things to offer. So this is kind of, in a nutshell, the culmination of decades of work by numerous people. And this is just showing the best results in the primate model. So it's a table showing the organ, the number of gene edits, the recipient, and the maximum survival in that model. So with the kidney, with a kidney from a 10-gene pig, more than 2 years survival. That's really remarkable when you consider how difficult the pig to primate model is. You know, it's really labor intensive, resource intensive, ethically intensive. It's really more than 2 years survival is really an amazing result. With the heart, with a 7-gene heart, 9 months life supporting function, that's also truly impressive. Lung has been particularly difficult. A lung with 6 gene edits, maximum survival of 1 month. They're still struggling to work out why the lung is so difficult. And the liver also 1 month, but the liver, that's actually not too bad when you think about it, because the liver probably won't be used as a permanent thing. It'll be used as a bridge until a human liver becomes available. So if you can keep someone alive with liver failure for a month, you may have the opportunity to transplant with a human liver. So now just moving to the decedent model and kidneys. So what happens in this model is the decedent, as they're called. So both kidneys are removed from the decedent. Both kidneys from a 10-gene pig are transplanted. The subject is then kept in intensive care for a fixed period of time, a predetermined period of time, under normal immunosuppression that they would be receiving if it was a human allotransplant. And then the kidneys are removed and analysed at the end. So one of the ways kidney function is measured is creatinine clearance, so that the more creatinine you've got in your blood, the worse your kidneys are performing. So you can see this started out, the serum creatinine starts out very high before transplantation, but it's normalised within a day of transplant and maintains that for the 7 days. This is a 7-day experiment. Not everything was completely normal though. In the first day, those 2 pig kidneys put out 37 litres of urine, and that's not normal at all. It did come down, certainly came down to more normal levels after about 5 days, but that, just to bear in mind, it's not absolutely perfectly normal result. So what was found from this study, one of the concerns was that humans have a higher blood pressure than pigs. So they were worried that might spring a leak. That didn't turn out to be the case. The pig kidneys coped perfectly well with the increased blood pressure of a human. And hemostasis was maintained for 7 days. Blood pressure regulation, mineral metabolism, water balance, solute clearance, all good. No obvious signs of rejection within the 7 days, no evidence of transmission of PERV. So a really important result and a good result. Now, this has since been extended from 7 days out to 2 months. And this was using not a kidney, but what's called a thymokidney, which is a composite organ. And the thymokidney, the rationale for that is you put a piece of the pig's thymus under the kidney capsule, and then you've got a composite organ, which you then transplant. And the idea is that once that's in a human recipient, the human's T cells will traffic through the pig thymus and be educated so that they won't reject the pig kidney. Whether that's actually going to work, 2 months is not long enough to say, but that was an interesting experiment. The decedent model with hearts, that's been done with two human subjects. Again, 10 gene donor pigs with immunosuppression as per allotransplantation. The first one went extremely well. The endpoint was day 3, functioned perfectly well for 3 days. The second one functioned poorly, and it's believed that was because they didn't do a good size match of the donor and recipient. You can see the picture. This is just slices of each of the pig hearts after 3 days, and they look pretty good. No evidence of rejection, no evidence of PERV transmission. The liver has also been done in this way. This was a 10-gene donor pig. The pig was in Boston and the subject was in Philadelphia, so they had to fly by private jet, the liver, from city to city. And they did this using this device. This is called normothermic machine perfusion. So it's a rig that you put rather than transport on ice, which is the normal way of transporting organs for transplant, which is not good for organs. You put it on this device that perfuses it with blood and other nutrients and oxygen, keeps it happy, keeps it warm at 37 degrees. So that just shows you the liver sitting in the rig, in the device. So they got it over to Philadelphia and they transplanted it into the subject. It was a 3-day experiment and showed normal liver function for 3 days, which was pretty impressive. No evidence of rejection, no evidence of PERV. And a group in China has since extended this out to 10 days using this model. Not published yet. This is not published either, by the way. So now we come to clinical experience. So this is the first pig heart that was transplanted into a human. This was done at the School of Medicine at the University of Maryland. So this was relatively recently, January 2022. The patient was a 57-year-old man with cardiomyopathy. Here he is here with the surgeon. The donor was a 10-gene pig. The immunosuppression was pretty much as per human-to-human transplantation, except there were two drugs used that were not normally used in that setting, which I've just shown here. This man was extremely unwell, and so there were multiple surgical and non-surgical complications. Despite that, there was no evidence of rejection when they took a biopsy at day 34, and the heart was functioning perfectly at 47 days, but it suddenly failed on day 49, and it had signs of antibody-mediated rejection. And they still are not clear on the precise cause of failure, but multiple factors have been implicated. One was because he was so sick and there were so many complications, it was extremely difficult to keep the immunosuppression at a sufficient level. It was going up and down, and that may have contributed. The other problem, which was unanticipated, he was treated with something called IVIG, which is intravenous immunoglobulin, which is often used in allotransplantation. But it was found retrospectively that IVIG actually contained antibodies against the pig heart. So they gave that on days 40 and 47, and the heart failed on days 49. So it seems a bit much of a coincidence. The other omission, or the other problem with this study, was that the providers of the pig hadn't done their screening right. So the pig heart actually carried a latent infection with a virus, porcine cytomegalovirus. And this is a virus, it can't infect human cells, but it was there in the heart and it was activated by the transplant procedure, and it proceeded to attack the heart itself. So that was probably a cause of this early failure. On the other hand, there was, on the positive side, there was no evidence of PERV transmission again. Now, this is the first in-human kidney, which was done in March of this year. The patient was a 62-year-old man. Here he is down here after the transplant. He was a type 2 diabetic with hypertension. He had received a kidney allograft that had rejected last year, and he qualified for a second allograft, but he had a rare blood type, and that generally means you're not going to get a transplant in a hurry. And he was having increasing problems with dialysis, getting to the point where he could no longer go on hemodialysis. So he received a 10-gene kidney, which also had all copies of PERV knocked out. He had an acute rejection episode at 1 week. That's not unusual in kidney transplantation, and it was successfully treated. And he was discharged very well at 2 weeks, which was really remarkable. Unfortunately, he died at 8 weeks, and the results have not been published yet. It's only what you can see in the media. And what Mass General Hospital have said in their press release is that all they've said is there's no indication he died as a result of the transplant. I don't know exactly what that means. So until this is published, we won't know what cause of death was, but certainly very encouraging for the first part of the transplant. And we're coming back again to the thymo kidney. This was done in April this year. The patient was a 54-year-old woman with heart and kidney failure. So she couldn't get a kidney because she had heart failure. She couldn't get a heart because she had kidney failure. So you could call this experience as either heroic or overly ambitious, in my opinion. What they did was a two-step process. So they inserted a left ventricular assist device. So they didn't take out the patient's heart. This is a device that just helps that heart work sufficiently. And they left that in place for a week, and then they transplanted a thymo kidney. And this was from a alpha-gal knockout pig, just a single genetic modification. And here's the kidney after it's been connected, and it looked beautiful. The thymo kidney looks beautiful. That's the color you want to see. It was producing urine. It was doing all the right things. What they found, though, was that the left ventricular assist device just wasn't providing enough blood supply to the kidney. The kidney needs a lot of blood, and you can't have a blood supply that sort of comes and goes. So the kidney was being damaged because it just wasn't getting this consistent blood supply. So they had to remove the thymo kidney 7 weeks post-transplant, and the patient was returned to dialysis, but I just read that she actually died. Sadly, she died last week. So, as I said, heroic or overambitious, I'm not sure. And then there's a first-in-human liver, which was very recent, just last month. This was a 71-year-old man in China. I believe the donor pig had 6 gene edits in it. And according to this report in Nature, the patient and the liver are both doing extremely well after 2 weeks. So we'll wait to see what happens there. Here's the liver during the transplant procedure. So we're going to shift track a little bit now from organs to cells. So I'm going to talk about pancreatic islet xenotransplantation. So for many years, the pancreas has been transplanted for type 1 diabetes. Relatively more recently, we have this process called islet isolation. You isolate the islets from the pancreas and just transplant them, because they contain the insulin-producing cells, which is what you want to transplant. And the islets are only about 3% of the whole pancreas. So rather than this really tricky surgical procedure of pancreas transplantation, you take the pancreas, you process it, you remove the islets, and then what you do is you infuse them into the recipient's liver blood supply, and they just go into the liver and they lodge in the liver. They're pretty small, and they start working. They start producing insulin and controlling blood glucose. So as always, there's a problem with donor supply. So our solution, and what our focus has been for a number of years now, is to use genetically modified pigs as the islet donors. So we've made so far up to 5 gene pigs in Australia. Obviously, the most important mutation is the alpha-gal knockout. We've also added a human glycosyl transferase called H-transferase. What H-transferase is to add O blood group to all those carbohydrate chains which are on the surface of the cells. And O blood group is non-immunogenic. So it's like it's masking other pig carbohydrates that may be immunogenic. So it's like a backup or an addition to the alpha-gal knockout. So we've got that, and we've got 2 human complement regulators in there. These are the pigs. They're very healthy, normal looking, not human looking at all. They're quite normal pigs. And the last gene we've been working on is an anti-CD2 monoclonal antibody, and I'll just explain the reason for that. So the idea here is, let's say this is a pig islet here, sitting in here. This is stained for insulin. So it's the brown staining shows you where the islet is. And this is the liver tissue into which it's been transplanted. Assume that's human. This is not pig to human, this is pig to primate, but you can get the idea. And so what happens when you stop immunosuppression, when you want to, we want to be able to stop immunosuppression. We want the graft to be able to survive without immunosuppressing the recipient. So if you have no immunosuppression, you get T cells coming in, infiltrating human T cells, and they express this molecule called CD2 on their surface. So this was work we did with Andrew Liu at the WEHI. He developed an anti-CD2 monoclonal antibody. So the idea is you genetically modify the pig so that the islet will produce this monoclonal antibody and secrete it just in its local environment. So when that happens, here comes the antibody out of the islets. It'll bind to the T cells that are coming in trying to destroy the graft, and it'll delete those cells. So this is what Andrew calls local immunosuppression. You don't have to treat the whole patient. You just have the immunosuppression coming from the graft itself. So that's why we're using the anti-CD2 monoclonal antibody transgene. So we've shown in non-human primate model that we can reverse diabetes using islets from 4 gene pigs. We haven't tried the anti-CD2 strategy yet. That's in progress now. But we published this a couple of years ago. All the details are in there. So here are the 4 genes that are modified in the donor pig. So on the x-axis, we have months post-transplant. The black line is daily blood glucose level. The red line is daily insulin dose in units. And down below, you can see the immunosuppression that was used and for how long it was used. So this primate was profoundly diabetic, so very high blood glucose levels, very high requirement for daily insulin injection before the transplant. After the transplant, blood glucose came down steadily into the normal range, to the point where we could stop giving insulin to the recipient. And the recipient remained off insulin for about 15 months. Even after we stopped all the immunosuppression, there were 5 months, it was normal blood glucose control, and then finally rejection. And this is by far the best result in a primate model that I know of. And we're working to extend that now by introducing the anti-CD2 monoclonal antibody, so that we hope that when we remove the final immunosuppression, that will continue to survive. The xenograft will continue to survive. So I don't know how I'm going for time. I'm probably okay. Take-home messages. CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing of the pig has transformed the field of xenotransplantation, as it's transformed many fields, but it's certainly made a huge difference in xenotransplantation. We can now make changes, multiple changes, knockouts, knock-ins, in the space of 6 months that would have taken 10 years to do before this technology came along. I think it's clear from the work that's been done now that pig kidney, heart, and liver xenografts can support life in humans. So far, patient survival has been limited to 6 to 8 weeks. I think that's largely to do with the patients that have been selected. They've been all extremely sick patients. We need to do further research. We need to understand and prevent this early failure. There's nothing to indicate that transmission of PERV will be a problem. However, we can knock out PERV if we think it will. And in my opinion, the preclinical and the clinical results justify a cautious move to strictly controlled clinical trials, probably kidney first, because the patient can go back on dialysis. Australia has long established expertise in pig gene editing and cloning, and I think we're the world leaders at the moment in islet xenotransplantation. So, Norman Shumway, he was a giant in the early days of heart allotransplantation, and he once famously said, xenotransplantation is the future of transplantation and always will be. I think if he was still alive, he might be starting to change his mind. A lot of skeptics are now beginning to change their mind about xenotransplantation. Finally, I want to acknowledge the many people in Australia who've worked on this collaborative effort. This is a very old photo, so it doesn't catch everyone, but the large group at St Vincent's Hospital in Melbourne, where I am, Mark Nottle and his team at the University of Adelaide. Oops, gone too far. Wayne Hawthorne and Phil O'Connell and their team at the Westmead Millennium Institute. And we worked for many years with Andrew Liu and his team at the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute. And of course, to acknowledge our funding, predominantly from NHMRC and the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Also to acknowledge the non-human primate reagent resource for some essential reagents that they provided.